treat people the way you want to be treated. If you treat them the way you want to be treated, they'll treat you and the people, whether it's clients, whether it's customers, the way they've been treated.
This is going so well. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Organizational Behavior with Siphiwe Moyo. My name is Siphiwe Moyo. I am back. Where are the witches now? They thought I'm dead. We are back. We haven't recorded an episode in a while, so apologies for those who've been asking. Actually, no one has been asking. Welcome back, everybody. It's so good to be here. I'm Siphiwe Moyo. I'm the Executive Director of the Organizational Behavior Institute. I'm a global speaker, which just means I spoke at Namibia. That's it. And a facilitator. I have an exceptional guest today. Her name is Debbie Mtshelwane. She's a lecturer, program lead at the Northwest University, and she's a PhD candidate among many other things. Hi, Debbie.
Good morning.
I'm still going to introduce you properly, but how's the PhD going?
PhD is going well now. I'm in a good phase now. The PhD goes through phases where you want to give up, where you are over it, where you're frustrated, you're angry, you want to kill everybody or kill your supervisor mostly. But I'm in a stage where I feel like I see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
All right, that's good.
So it's good.
That's good. So we're going to have an interesting conversations with Debbie. We're going to chat about organizational citizenship behavior, which is really one of the constructs I enjoy a lot in organizational behavior research. So we're going to have a really good time. But before that, we have a new feature on the show. At the beginning of every show, I highlight a new organizational behavior research paper that is either new or new to me that I find fascinating, just for a few minutes, and then I'll get a comment from Debbie about it. So there's a paper that I was reading. It's called Reasons for Interruptions at Work, Illuminating the Perspective of the Interrupter. So this paper has just been published, I think 19 June 2024, fresh from the box, as we say in South Africa. I don't think anyone else internationally uses that phrase, ne?
It's only you, like the later millennials.
Old people.
The new generation doesn't use that anymore.
Don't use that. So it's called Reasons for Interruptions at Work, Illuminating the Perspective of the Interrupter. It's written by Leon Tobin and Caspar Wilkenwet and Sabine Sontag, and explores the motivation behind why individuals interrupt their colleagues at work. So the reason I found it quite interesting is that it turns out not all interruptions at work are bad. When people interrupt you while you're working, the reasons for that interruption matter. So the paper explores different types of interruptions. So obviously the study identifies different types of interruptions, including task-related, social and organizational-driven interruptions. There's task-related, there's social interruptions that are motivated by the desire to maintain an interpersonal relationship and social bonds. And in the context of the work from home phenomenon, it turns out many of these interruptions that we're missing were actually motivated by an intention of someone wanting to help the interruptee. And so the impact of that little paper on work, so this is where this is what I wanted to highlight. The study highlights that while some interruptions can be beneficial at work, others can be disruptive and lead to decreased productivity, increased stress for the interruptee. The impact of interruptions is also influenced by the context, the relationship between interrupter and the interruptee, and the timing of the interruption. So basically, sometimes in the workplace, interruptions are really good because they're adding value to the person who's being interrupted. So sometimes you're being interrupted and someone adds value, give you a creative ideas, assists you, or sometimes they are just a connection attempt. Someone just wants to connect with you. What's your view about generally interruptions in the workplace?
I think my comment around them is I lean more to them being good, in the sense that if you're interrupting somebody where they've been working for hours and they can just take a break, or where you are the one also being interrupted and you're sitting and working through content and you can just take a break, it allows you to come back again with a fresh perspective on the work that you're working on, or even at the same time, it really just helps you to to just gonna gain more energy to going back to doing what you're doing. So I definitely think there are things that we should do often, but also at the same time we should be able to kind of draw boundaries in a sense that if I'm going to interrupt somebody, to put a time limit to it. And I'm going to use a small example. Working with research sometimes gets overwhelming. So I would go to a colleague of mine and I would interrupt her, and we've got this game, the Noughts and Crosses, where we would play like for 5 minutes.
Nice.
So I know that my interruption is only limited to 5 to 10 minutes, nothing longer than that. And we have the freedom to tell each other, okay, I'm now going to continue to work, or I'm going to leave you to go work. If we don't communicate those expectations, it might lead to a place where people feel, I don't want to be interrupted. And you also fear of interrupting somebody else because you feel you are being troublesome. So I think they need to happen within boundaries, but also communicating those expectations. Why am I doing that? If both parties know why we're doing these interruptions, it makes sense to create them and to create that culture where I can come into your office and say, let's quickly take a coffee break and go sit in the tea room, which we do often. And you know that it's between 10 to 20 minutes and you can freely leave after that. That interruption was good for you just to take a break and just continue with the work again, because you're able to kind of like refresh and go back to your work with a fresh perspective.
That is so good. There are a few employers that have started having some physical cues. And when I don't want to be interrupted, I put something red and yellow and green. And I think those things are really, really nice.
Definitely.
To help with the boundaries and to help when you want to do a bit of deep work. The last thing you need is to be interrupted. But actually, interruptions can be so good in the workplace. I think those cues actually help sometimes.
Definitely.
I've seen also some people have cues where they use certain cues to have what they call crucial conversations, for example. Are you in a mood to have a bit of crucial conversations, the mood for feedback and so on? And I think those help.
Yeah, we have, in my door, I have almost like a pie chart that shows what I'm doing at that very moment. So obviously that gives somebody
Nice.
the indication when I can be interrupted, because I know I'm an extrovert. So if you come talk to me, I'll talk to you forever. So, but now at the end of the day, I need to work at night because I didn't get through all the work. And what we also do at the office, it's just something we know. If someone's office door is closed, but the light is on, you know that they're busy.
Wow.
If their door is open, fully open, you know that you can come in and it's fine.
Oh,
So that's what
I
we
love
use
them.
in our office space. People know that.
I love them. All right, thank you so much. So ladies and gentlemen, as I said, we're having Debbie, who I love her work. I love your energy, and I think that's the extrovert side of you as well. So let's just get to know you a little bit, because we're going to have this very beautiful discussion around the stuff around citizenship behaviors. But for the people who are listening, do you want to just let us know who is Debbie, where thou cometh from? How does King James...
Shakespeare coming out here.
I don't think that's how it goes, but anyway, I'll take my chances. So just a bit of background. Who are you? Where do you come from? How do you end up where you are?
I just realized I came in here and I didn't say hi to your listeners. So again, hello to everyone listening. I think it's
And
rude.
watching.
You know, when you listening and watching, it's rude when you come into someone's house and you just start talking.
Yeah.
So let me just lay it well. And so hello everyone that's listening and watching. Thank you for inviting me, Siphiwe. It's really a great honor to be here. I love your work.
Thank you.
And I love the space. It looks amazing.
Thank you.
Debbie is... I've got 3 names, so I'll share all 3 so you can hear who I really am. Debbie Mtshelwane, or Nontsikelelo Debra. Debbie's taken from Debra.
Okay.
Baby it's Mtshelwane.
Oh,
I'm born, bred here in Pretoria. Went to school here in the East, the Glen High School right here.
Oh.
And then moved to Potchefstroom in 2009 to start my first year. And when I started in my first year, I went into HR and did my undergrad and postgrad there. And then now, obviously, doing my PhD. And since then, I've been 10 years in academia. And I've been in the teaching space, research space. And I've been loving the field, loving what I'm doing. So that's, and then on top of that, I'm a consultant. And that's in a nutshell who I am.
It's crazy, because when I grew up, researchers didn't look like you.
Times has changed, eh?
They
Times
were
have changed.
old, they were grumpy. They were wearing blazers. How come do you look so cool? Why is academia changing?
I think it's changing. I think there's a new type of, I think the way the world is changing, think about it back in the days, how did technology look like? It was gray, black and white, this big TVs, and now your screens are these smart TVs. So I think even not just technology, but the way in which people look. When you used to think of somebody being 40, you'd be like, oh, they're old. And how they used to dress. And now when you think of someone as 40, they still, you would know. Yeah, vibe, hip and happening. You know what I mean? So I think it's just how things have changed, and we have a fresh new wave of academics coming in.
That's very, very cool. But do your students still fear you?
My first approach to my student is be who you are. So I'm usually very friendly with them, open with them, but there's also firmness that I bring in to say, as much as I can be kind and friendly, there's a firmness of we still need to both respect each other. We still need to behave professionally, come to the table as professionals. So I don't think they fear me, but I think there's a sense of respect in our relationship for each other.
All right. So your role now at the Northwest University, my alma mater, as a lecturer and program lead, what is your primary responsibility?
My primary responsibility at the university includes that of a researcher or an academic, and out of that academic bubble is a researcher, a lecturer, and also someone that works with community engagement or has community engagement projects. And then in addition to that, I'm a program leader. So that's managing the HR program from undergrad to postgrad. So that is looking at the curriculum, reevaluating every 3 to 5 years. That's facilitating when we go through the ACBP accreditation, you facilitate that whole process from beginning to end. It has to do with moderation, marking, teaching, setting up assessments, writing textbooks, writing study guides. So it's all those elements that I'd say encompasses a program, registration, student inquiries, parent inquiries, open days, just to ensure that the program is running from first semester to the last semester. And from my teaching side, obviously that's, again, teaching assessments, moderation, marking, assisting students. And on a research elements, it's supervising master students and also ensuring that I collaborate with other researchers in terms of writing papers and working on research projects. And with community engagements, it's really just trying to, how does our research and teaching, again, impact the community? How do we help and assist the community? And my framework or understanding of community engagement changed recently, because in the past you think community engagement and what people do, and we jump on the same bandwagon that everyone has been done all these years. You go and you paint a school and you package food and you go take food and you take pads. That is good work. We love it. It helps the community because they need those things, but it's not sustainable. We're not preparing somebody for the world of work or preparing somebody for better education. So now I started thinking, how do I use my skill, what I do, to then improve the community, to make them work ready, to give them opportunities to understand what the industry requires, then have programs that build that kind of person that can then have employment rather than just giving them a food parcel that's going to last them for a month.
Yeah, I like that. And is that how you're doing them now?
Yeah, so now I've collaborated with one of the research projects at our university, and how that now looks like, I present basically, we help scholars with how, there's a manual, how to look and prepare for university. How do I start looking? Because those kids don't necessarily have the exposure of knowing what do I study, where do I study, where to look for bursaries, where to look for opportunities, how do I work out my APAs? They don't have that. So we have a manual that basically takes the scholars through a whole year of a process. So at the end of the year, that grade 10, grade 9, grade 8 learner knows exactly how many universities there are in South Africa or even international. We can show them that there are opportunities that you can explore. If you start, that's how you can go explore. We help them. How do I apply? What do they look for? What documents do I have to get ready? In terms of work, you help them prepare a CV. You help them present themselves, articulate themselves. So if you go into interview, this is the way you present yourself. This is how you talk. This is what you do. So you prepare them, even if they're not going directly to a workplace, but already you have some sort of skill transfer that you provide for them at that stage. So that's what we're doing right now. I've created a manual that trains the trainers in Ikageng. The trainers trains the kids. So what I do is constantly a review of the content, and I go once or twice to go review how they presented, give them feedback, how they can improve on their presentation, or where we're missing things, to ensure that the program really works. What we then have is, because it's an NRF funded thing, they then go also and evaluate, give us feedback in terms of, is it really working? Do we have people being employed? Do we have students going into universities that have gone through the program? If not, how do we change it? Because essentially, we can't just have programs that are running, but we don't see the impact. It's all about impact.
Yeah, for anyone listening who might not know the NRF, it's the National Research Foundation. Actually, if you don't know that, you shouldn't be listening to this show.
No, I'm glad you mentioned it. No, it's good. If I do throw terms, please remind me to go.
Why am I coughing so
elaborate?
much, guys? What's going on? The witches are back. No, I love that. I was having a discussion. There was this friend of mine who is a banking executive who was saying this idea that whenever we serve a community, you must go and paint schools and start gardens is okay and it's cute. But he was saying, as someone who understands banking, surely my greatest contribution is to tell people about banking careers. So the idea that you only want to use me to paint, you are actually, it's fine, but you are limiting me. I could be having a greater impact in identifying that person, Ekasi, who might not understand banking, and I would have changed their life by having a conversation with them around those issues. So it's very, very fascinating. All right, so today we want to talk about organizational citizenship behavior. And for me, I'm passionate about organizational behavior, and this is one of the constructs that I really love. And what triggered the conversation for me is when I think you were emceeing or you had attended the Organizational Citizenship Behavior Awards at the university, and I thought, we haven't had a conversation about OCBs in the podcast. So for those who don't know, what is organizational citizenship behavior? Why should we care? Does a leader sitting in corporate need to care? Does an employee sitting in a university or somewhere need to care about OCB?
Yeah, so OCB, in short, is those qualities that an individual embodies, or values that you embody of an organization or of an institution that is not necessarily written down in your formal job description to say you need to do this in this manner. It's literally you embodying that and living that out.
Sure.
It's you going the extra mile. It's you wanting to be more innovative and creative. It's you wanting to add more value and contribute better to the success of the organization. So it's those behaviors that when we see what you do, we're like, oh, this reflects who we are. And it's effortless and it's nice to do it. Yes, you can get overwhelmed, but it's not necessarily a place where you complain about doing the things that you do, because it drives you, it fuels you. It's what we call your employee drivers. Those are the things that make you want to wake up in the morning. You get excited when somebody asks you, Siphiwe, how's your work? The first thing you don't say, like I've heard other people say, like, we're just working. What will we say? No, like you might say that once in a while when you're in a stressful space, and that's okay, because we're humans. We feel we go through stressful times, but your general conversation about your work is exciting. It's positive. It's you're thinking about the future. You're planning. There's all these new ideas. So I believe it's what human beings embody about the organization, and it flows naturally from them. And it's nice to do those things. And you ask the question: should it matter for the employer, and should it matter for the employee? If you as an employer, these following elements are important to you: if making profit, if retaining your people, if ensuring that you are adding value and contributing to the bigger picture of what you're doing as an organization, if you are about growth and you're about sustainability, then yes, OCB should matter to you, because it is if you embody it and your people embody it, what are you going to get out of it? Retention. Because people are going to feel there is some sort of I'm embodying this, I'm enjoying what I do, I'm satisfied with my work, I go the extra mile. It's hardly the people that are satisfied and happy and growing that want to leave the organization.
True.
So if you want to, that it's going to obviously affect your retention. It's going to allow people to grow. It's going to allow people to be creative and innovative, because then it gives the people the freedom. If I am being given the opportunity to, there's a term that we use, job craft, do the work in my own way, and I'm supported in that, then I'm able to flourish in that. So there's great benefits to that. I'm
getting goosebumps because I think, every leader that is listening to the podcast or watching the podcast now, that's exactly the type of employee we want, right? An employee that gives us that discretionary effort, that gives us those behaviors that you're talking about. And I think, what is the leader's role in fostering that environment? Because you might find there's an employee sitting there thinking, yeah, but if they wanted that behavior, they should have done 1, 2, 3. Yeah. And there's some truth to that, isn't there?
I think, firstly, and as cliche as it might sound, the leader needs to be the people that are first, the ones who are first embodying that. Those are the ones. Sometimes we've got these barriers where leaders up here and the people are down there, and there's no meeting together of understanding. Yes, you're communicating these values and who we are and what we do, but how are you embodying them? How are you doing them? How are you collaborating with employees on different levels to kind of show that how it looks like? So I think be the first people that embody that,
Absolutely.
Not just communicating it, but let it be a practical thing. How do you do that on a day-to-day basis? Secondly, I also think how we can do that as leaders is I think incorporate that into our performance structures or our performance agreements. Yes, we said it's not a formalized document, but if people can have a guideline in their KPIs of what are we working towards, what are you looking for, then it's easy to kind of align with that. Because if something is not put in a place that is important for me in my KPIs, I'm not going to really chase after it. It's going to be like an add-on.
The other stuff that you mentioned was job crafting, and you mentioned it briefly, but the power of job crafting is it's such a powerful thing to get these OCBs that we're looking for. And I often tell a story, and I don't think I've told it on the podcast. If the producer rolls their eyes, that means I've told it a lot. So you can watch.
I'll watch out for you.
I remember at some point when I was working for a bank and my role didn't include presenting at all. Like for some reason, my boss kind of understood that I love speaking in front of people, but my job didn't really involve that. And at that time, I really didn't know job crafting, but she would have these moments where she asked me to come with her at Exco and present on some 5 minutes and whatever. And at that time, I didn't understand what was going on. Later, she tells me that I know you've always wanted to speak.
Wow.
I know you always wanted to present. Sometimes I would create these little opportunities for you to present and do and include these few things in your role because I knew it energizes you.
Yeah.
So that allowing an employee a little bit of that job crafting actually can give them that space to exhibit those discretionary efforts.
And those are your employee drivers. For example, we speak of employee drivers such as somebody wanting autonomy and freedom to do the work the way they do it.
Yeah.
Is it the way is it the structure the way you would want to be? No, but does it meet the final objective? Good. Somebody that is driven by teamwork. They want to work in team. They can't function in isolation. They can if they have to, but they are more energized and creative and innovative when they're in a teamwork. So that's an employee driver. Those are the things that keeps you engaged. Someone else might have, for example, for them it's important to work in an organization that has a good brand, that has a community, some sort of a sense of community. So those are the things that drive people. And I can totally agree with you. Like there's certain things that I'm doing right now at my work that I'm not supposed to be doing. It's not in my job description. But because I have a passion for development and I have a passion for students, seeing them not leaving there just having passed the exam and passed the module or gotten a degree. But I want to know that according to the values of the New Northwest University, it says that we want to send employable graduates.
Sure.
So therefore, what I do in my class needs to go deeper than just the module outcomes. You know, so I have what we call the student job shadowing opportunity where I work with organizations and I send our honors and master students every recess period to go work there. They're getting exposure there. They're learning things. So by the end of the year, in your honors year, you've worked at 4 companies where you've learned what the world of work really looks like, because we want to send employable graduates. Yeah. We also have work readiness webinars and workshops where we bring people from industry that come speak to them. Anything from what are industry expectations regarding people in the industrial psychology, HR and labor relations. They share that with him. We've had people from various banks, people from various mines that have come to speak to our students on what do we look for in an interview, what do we look for in your CV. So therefore, by the time they get there, we've already sussed that out.
We've set them up for success.
Exactly. So that's not in my job description. I'm not supposed to do that.
Sure.
But because my value proposition that I align with at Northwest University is to say we want to set employable graduates, so let's make them employable.
That's crazy. There's a book I think I was reading. It's called Slow Productivity, if I'm not mistaken. And we often talk about the things that lead to burnout. And most of the time when we talk about those things, it's mostly physical stuff that we're working too long and whatever. But there's an element there that causes burnout where there is a value mismatch with the things that matter to you and what you do in the workplace. When there's that mismatch, it actually causes burnout. And that kind of job crafting that you are doing now, doing the things that you are doing, job shadowing, closes that value match if it wasn't there already. Yeah. So allowing people and giving them a little bit of space to do things that might not have been in their job description is actually beneficial for the organization.
Definitely.
And sometimes leaders miss that. All right, thank you so much. So I wanted to find out then, how do these OCBs, these extra behaviors, the behaviors that we really want, how do they interact with other organizational behavior outcomes like job satisfaction, like performance, like engagement? I would assume the effect is positive or not?
No, definitely. I think let's look at them individually. When you look at job satisfaction first, if I am satisfied in what I do in my job role, I will naturally exhibit OCB behaviors. Like it will come naturally because I love what I do. It's things that I enjoy. It's things that align with my own values, even if it's the organization's values, but they align with all my own values. So your natural display of OCB will be satisfaction. And with regards to engagement, if I am working in collaboration with people and there's a culture of collaborating and doing things together, I will tend to be more engaged because I know that I'm contributing to a bigger team, to a bigger process, to a bigger plan, to a bigger goal. So essentially, the people that exhibit engagement and will naturally also exhibit those OCB behaviors or behaviors in organizational citizenship. And Performance, I think that also speaks for itself. Because if you are, firstly, satisfied with your work, you are working in a culture that cultivates, that also celebrates, but also recognizes those behaviors, obviously your performance individually or in a team will also increase. And I think what we also do at people in corporate is we sometimes focus much on the individual performance. However, people work in collaboration with one another to reach organizational goals. We should also focus very much on what are we recognizing and celebrating and awarding on a group level when people are displaying those behaviors, people are carrying those elements. Because now somebody who knows that these are my KPIs and therefore I'm going to get a bonus for that or that gets recognized individually. Will I really put effort in when I'm working with people? What does it mean ultimately for them? What's the impact on the performance? But when I know that my impact here or my contribution here adds to a bigger picture, then I understand that individual individual effort is as important as the group collaboration one. So therefore, if I can exhibit that, your performance levels goes high.
That is so interesting. I was facilitating a conversation the other day for a university, and I was speaking about collaboration. And one person in my session said, and she's a researcher, so maybe you will resonate with that. She said, we speak about collaboration, but if you look at our environment as a university, the way we are managed in terms of performance, the way we are rewarded, the way we are recognized is actually inhibiting collaboration, because I'm rewarded and recognized based on the number of individual papers that I produce.
Exactly.
There is absolutely nothing in my contract that says, right, what do you call the papers, where joint papers or something like that, where you have two authors. I'm dissuaded to even collaborate with my colleagues, because if I produce an individual paper, I get more recognized, I get more recognition. Yeah. So the stuff that we put in our contracts and how we recognize does matter on whether it fosters that collaboration.
And I think that brings us to a place as corporate or even as institutions to go and really look at those job descriptions, or not really, but your performance agreements regarding how do we evaluate those goals or those specific outcomes or those KPIs? How do we evaluate them? Because it speaks to how people will work. It speaks to a culture that we're forming. And we need to review those practices, because what worked 10, 20 years ago does not work right now, where we're moving towards. And when we look at OCB as a concept, things are changing. So we can't just change the way we do work, but we need to change the way in which whatever supports the work we do, those policies, those documents that are there, that are guiding documents for individuals. Then it makes sense. Okay, fine. This is now how it's evaluated. So therefore, I need to look for collaboration. Yeah.
So good. I'm enjoying this conversation so much. Really, really amazing. Here's the other thing I wanted to ask you about. So I was facilitating another session, the art of looking busy. You must always say I was facilitating. I was
use a
I was
fancy
speaking
word.
there. I was speaking there, and then people are like, "Oh, he facilitates." Oh my God!
But that's true, though. You're not lying,
true.
right?
I'm not lying. I'm definitely not lying. And I was facilitating another session where there was an incredible display of citizenship behaviors that someone told me about. So I was speaking about the concept, and then this guy in an organization that I shall not name is the head of security and head of VIP protection and whatever in this huge institution. So his portfolio looks after all the security guards in the entire organization. And he said something that I find incredible. He says there's one security officer in the organization who just goes beyond the call of duty. That guy, he takes this security thing to a totally different level, to the point where the people who are not even supposed to know this guy, the executives and clients, when he's not there, they can notice, because when he opens the lift for the people, he opens the lift, you have conversation. And this gentleman was saying, that's the organizational citizenship behavior you were talking about, Siphiwe. But my problem now is that how do I replicate that guy? Because everybody else, we all know that maybe security job is not the most paid. Everybody else in the organization does not give me these behaviors that this guy is giving me. I want to replicate him. I want to make sure that they learn from him. But every time I kind of quote that, can't you learn from, I make him a target of the other employees. Instead, they are not learning. So what are some of the one or two things that leaders can try and foster to create this environment where these behaviors can be exhibited? So we've spoken about job crafting. You've spoken about aligning the performance with either individuals or maybe group outcomes. Is there any other thing that maybe you're thinking about that maybe a leader can try to just create an environment where these behaviors can come through?
Yeah, definitely. I think we need to start having crucial conversations with people. And what that also looks like is the art of coaching and mentoring. When we want to have people embody who we are, we need to start asking ourselves, where are these people at the moment? And I think it's good for you to analyze based on people's I'd say his work history, what they've done, where they're at, and you start mapping their career for them. But it's important to really have conversations to understand where are they at, where are the gaps, what do they need, and therefore in alignment with the organization's value proposition or where they're going. So to ask yourself, how do I align this individual to there? There are a lot of assessments that we miss, and I think not a lot of organizations use psychometric assessments to the benefit of that they should use it for. There's a lot of assessments out there that one can look at. What do I want to do in OCB, and what assessments will feed me the right information, and therefore then structure a career mapping for this individual, because it speaks to their own career growth. They know that the organization is not just in it for me to work for them and make them. Yes, that's important. However, they also care about my own personal growth and progression, because I feel heard, I feel valued. I can go to them and tell them, I actually want to be this or reach this level of my career. This is where I want to go, even if it does not mean that the person is going to stay there for the next 10, 20 years. But while they are with you, you are giving them the training they need, the skills they need, the support they need to reach the goals that they need to reach. And you are using, I don't want to say using sounds so bad, you are utilizing their competencies, their skills, their knowledge to the best, to the benefit of the company. And even if it means during that time there's a skill transfer, there's a succession plan in place that you're putting in place. And by the time they leave, it's not that you've lost, and yes, you've lost somebody that was a valuable contributor, but you've also gained so much because they've also transferred that knowledge. So we need to understand that people they can't stick to one place. We need to be okay with that.
That's so good. So we are edging ever so closely to the end. So we play this little game where we now have quick questions and quick answers. It's almost like tweetable codes that we're gonna put on
the pressure.
TikTok. So now it's TikTok. You know what? We're gonna put that music that goes on TikTok where when you know that's gonna be something motivational. How does it go, Jared? So these are the shorts that we're gonna shoot.
Alrighty, bring it.
And we're gonna put it everywhere. So you can still look at me, but pretend to also look at the camera.
Alright,
and we're not even editing this coaching that I'm doing now.
Woo! The pressure. I hope I deliver.
Of course, you will deliver. There will be those sharp, quick content. They're still around. Leaders' contribution and how leaders can create an environment where these OCBs flourish, right? So firstly, the role of a positive culture in creating OCBs. Any comment?
The role of a culture?
Of creating a positive culture as a leader in making sure that employees present citizenship behaviors. Any comment on that?
I think provide clarity in terms of who we are and where we're going.
Absolutely. What is the role of just respecting and treating people with dignity and respect? Do you think that can help us get this citizenship behavior?
Definitely. I think if we are people who, I would say, treat people the way you want to be treated. If you treat them the way you want to be treated, they'll treat you and the people, whether it's clients, whether it's customers, the way they've been treated.
This is going so well. What is the role of perceived lack of fairness or perceived breach of the psychological contract? If I think as an employer you've breached the psychological contract anyway, that you are not treating me fairly anyway, surely you are not going to get these behaviors from me. Yes or no?
No, because it's perceived. And I need to get to the bottom of why I think that. And I need to start having those crucial conversations to get to the bottom of what is really happening. What is your idea of what you're supposed to be doing? What is my idea of what I think you're supposed to be doing? And how do we meet halfway?
So if I have employees in my team who might be harboring some kind of resentment and thinking I'm not treating everybody fair, how can I know, Mina, as an employer?
I I think this is where you start using third parties. I think we sometimes do not utilize resources out there because we want to do everything in-house. And maybe sometimes we need to consider utilizing external resources of people that are going to be able to kind of help us and assist us in that, because then it gives you a fresh perspective. It gives you insight, but also gives people the freedom maybe to speak. And I know it's not as easy as it sounds, because sometimes people are like, oh, but if you're doing it, you're probably going to tell our boss. So you need to start creating a psychological safety for them to realize that it's a safe space, whether it's saying things anonymously, whether it's you need to be strategic about it. I think it's not a solid answer. It's really a very rigorous process of getting to how do we do it well.
That I think that is so fair, because even if you think you're a fair leader, there are certain things that people won't tell you, that they can maybe tell a third party, especially a third party who know how to facilitate group discussions and so on. The role of leading by example. If we see our leader demonstrating this citizenship behavior, we are more likely to demonstrate them as well.
Definitely. I think to an extent, yes. There will be a group of people who will latch on quickly to how you and respond to how you've displayed these behaviors, and also do the same. And there's a group of people that you always would have to take along and put in the extra effort. So
the role of recognition and rewards in these behaviors, what do you think that is?
If people get recognized and rewarded for those behaviors, they're most likely to be more engaged and take other people with them. So they constantly will be the ones that are displaying OCB behaviors that organization requires, and making sure they take the organization a bit further. So I really believe rewarding those behaviors is a good start, because it shows the rest of the people who we are, what we value, but what we also recognize, and also what we celebrate in the organization. And it will also give encouragement to other people, like, oh, this is the expectation, so I can step up to that expectation. I don't think there's anybody anywhere that does not like being recognized, or that does not like being rewarded, that does not like being celebrated in what they do, because it makes them feel my work is seen. I'm actually important. I'm actually contributing to the bigger picture.
That is absolutely brilliant, because we've all seen some organization when there's a star performer who has very bad behaviors, but because they are a star performer in terms of numbers, they're the ones who are rewarded. But if you do that, then you are not going to see the behaviors that you want. What is the role of work-life balance? Because if we're always rewarding OCBs, because I guess people show initiative, they stay long in the workplace, they give us discretionary effort, we can reward them to the point where maybe they compromise their own work-life balance and therefore their own mental health. What is the, where should we draw that line?
Yeah, I think you can't, as a strategy, as an approach in any organization, it needs to be coupled with how do we then support these same individuals that are doing that. So we need to also find ways that we remind individuals of the work-life balance, and we create a culture that allows people in those behaviors that there's work flexibility, that there's boundaries between, and I know some people are like, but we work from home. People know that you don't have to work or respond to an email after work at 8:00. Like there's just a culture of knowing that you're not expected to, as someone once said in a meeting that we had as academics, that during COVID, we're not an emergency institution. We're not a hospital. So don't expect people to respond immediately to an email at 8:00, or students shouldn't expect an email immediately when you wake up in the morning at 7:00.
No one is dying.
No one is dying. So understanding that that's a culture that you're cultivating, and you communicate that, and you reinforce that, and you also live. You kind of constantly. I don't want to say explore, but you constantly cultivate that type of environment. so that you also look after the well-being of people. So I think that's important. It goes hand in hand. Like let us enhance and try people to have people display these behaviors, but at the same time, let's also remind people, show people, provide resources, provide structures that people can function in, that makes sure that they are well, they are not overworking and burnt out.
Wow. What a conversation. You know, what is my key takeaway from the conversation that we've had, and I know we are about to close, is that your argument that the behaviors that we want, the citizenship behaviors, you say, this is how you put it. If you as a leader are interested in the hard outcomes like productivity, employee performance, and whatever, you have to care about organizational citizenship behaviors, because sometimes we think it's just this fluffy stuff.
Yeah, fluffy HR.
Yeah, fluffy HR stuff. But that's the stuff that gives you what you actually want. All right. So in closing, anything you just want to let us know around emerging trends, areas of focus in the field of whether it's organizational behavior, human resources management that you are finding particularly exciting or promising as we lean towards the close?
I think when we look at OCB as a concept, we can't look at it in isolation. We need to look at the world of work that's changing, AI, and all the technological developments. I think all that will also speak into how we do OCB. And obviously, we spoke now about wellness, work well-being. And there's also elements in work well-being that we need to consider when we're doing this, because we're driving people for performance and excellence and all that. But we can't do that outside giving structure and giving processes that ensures that those people are taken care of. Those people understand how to still do this while looking after themselves, while having a work-life. I actually don't believe in the word, I know I say work-life balance, I don't believe in work-life balance. Believe in more of an integration, because balance tells me that there's an equilibrium between the two, and you can never have that. Sometimes you're really going to have work that's here, and you're going to neglect other things.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So I think it's almost that integration, knowing that I'm able to kind of tap into both areas, work and life, and they both support each other, and not one is suffering more than the other one.
So true. And I think that's the word, integration. And sometimes one of the things I say is that even in dating, you must date someone who's busy, Shem.
Please tell us why, because we don't know. I'm sure the listeners also want to know why you're saying that.
I feel that if you date someone who's very busy, when they know they don't have time, too much time, even when you go on a date, they know they have 1 hour.
The pressure.
And then they give you this quality time, like look you in the eye and ask you good questions.
Alrighty.
Not this, how was your day, morning, how was your day, morning,
you speak on real things.
Yeah. They say, what is exciting you right now? And then they look you in the eye.
You must now step up.
Aye. You can tell that I'm dating NQF 9.
So they say you must date within your NQF level. All the 9s, all the 10s.
Yeah, all the 9s. If you're going to date someone below that, they're impressed by every word you say. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm getting out of it. Last final thoughts. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience about your work, about your topics, about anything you're passionate about? And also, maybe how do we find you? How do we connect with you? There's someone listening to the podcast and say, I wonder if Debbie would come to our organization and chat to us about OCBs or anything that you would just like to close with.
I know somebody, it's you, who would want to speak at people at organizations with OCB. That would be you, because you're the cream of the crop.
Oh, thank you very much.
But I think regarding my work, what I'm doing, what excites me right now, I'm finishing a project on developing a short learning program to enhance competencies of HR practitioners. And HR has had a very bad name, like fluffy HR. We not, yes, we want to sit at the table, but are we really stepping up? Do we know who we are? Do we know what we're doing? And I've seen many times people give HR a bad name. And I think my encouragement this morning is just to say, let us be the organizations where people want to stay at, where it does not. People spend many hours, most hours in a day, whether it's an organization or whether it's at home working. Let's try humanize the workplace. Let's try be people who give HR the name that it deserves. And I think it's important that we function from a place of excellence to ask yourself that what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, does it represent excellence in every way? So I think, that's my heart, just to see that our field is, that the people that are there know who they are, know why they're there. Simon Sinek says, what's your why? And I think we need to start asking ourselves, what's our why? And once we know our why, to go hard after it with all our might and strength, with excellence. We've got a legacy to leave. We're not going to be in this field forever, so make sure that when you're sitting one day 30, 40 years back and you look back, you're like, no, we did prepare those that come after us, and we did leave a legacy, and the organizations are flourishing and they're healthier, and people have good relationships with their managers. It can't be the same as it used to be. We can't carry on with the same toxic environments. It needs to look and feel and smell better. So that's my heart behind it. And where can people find us? Or find me? Look at me, us. I know where that came from. I think I've heard a lot of people being interviewed to find us. Okay, sorry. Where can people find me? People can find me on LinkedIn at Debbie Mtshelwane. I think that's where I'm most active, and I think Instagram and Facebook are more your how can I say, informal sites. But I think mostly the best place for me is find me on LinkedIn.
Thank you very much. When you were doing that closing, I could feel your heart. I could feel the passion. I could feel a sense of meaning and purpose. And I really hope we don't let you down as other HR people. Raise that game and make sure that we deliver. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for the invite. I must say, I really feel honored to be here and to be invited to come speak to you. And thank you. Really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, this is so nice. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Please remember to hit that subscribe button. Gerard said I must say that it makes a difference for people to find us. Share the episode widely. Until next time, keep exploring the fascinating world of organizational behavior and always strive to make your workplace better. As we often say, work does not have to suck. We are out!